And we can wait for them. Okay. I'll turn off my camera. They don't need to see me.
Are you starting now?
Yeah.
And okay, should I? Okay. It's 28 on my watch. I will be waiting a few more minutes for those who are joining. Yes, we have Kasia. Have you managed? Okay. Yes, of course. No, I can't. Some. What is Simone saying? I'm asking Davor, I think I need to give the permission to speak to Simone because he will speak at a certain point quite soon. You...
Okay, no worries. I'll promote him.
Okay, but there are already people who joined. Yes, great. Okay, maybe I can see now that there's already a few of us. Yes, hi. Hello. So we are starting the webinar. I see a few of us have already joined. Simone and Kasia from the office in Brussels and Lucy from Paris. Then we have 1, 2, 3. Hi, we have Victoria. Hi there. Hi, Noor. Sorry for the bad pronunciation of your name. Lene has joined. So we wait a few seconds to start. We are expecting only a few more people. Thank you for joining. I'm showing my face. You can see also Simone, who will be talking this with me today. And we are now 1 minute on. I see people joining the meeting. Bianca from AXA has just joined. Hello. I would like just to remind you that you can write your question on the site. If you want to ask, you can also be given the permission to speak. We will plan to have Q&A session at the end. But of course, while the slides of the webinar go through, you can write your questions and we will take them into consideration at the right time. Okay, I think I'm thinking to start. Just wait another minute for the last ones, patience, and then we can go on. Just remind those who are here that this is going to be recorded. This is for those who are not able to join the meeting today and would like to do it. Would like to follow, what is planned for the campaign of the European election. Voila. As we are in, I say good morning to everybody. Again, as you see my face now, I will shortly share the screen and start a webinar. So voila, here we are. Okay, you should be able to see now the first of the slides. So why are we here today? Thank you for joining, first of all. The purpose of this webinar is to prepare the final phase of the pre-election campaign that will lead to the European elections votes in all the member state countries between the 23rd and the 26th of May, as you know very well. What we want to do today is to see what we can do in a joint and coordinated way with all of you for the next couple of months, which will be the most intense months, or rather 2-3 months, I should say, and focus on what is coordinated at the European level, how we can help, and what we are inviting you to do. I want to, for this reason, move to the next slide. So what we are going to do in this next hour, just a wrap up on why this campaign is taking place. Some of you who attended the December CNA meeting, the Council of National Alliance meeting, have already been introduced to this idea, and certainly you are familiar with this idea. It's nothing new. What is probably new is the second part. The Pledge for Rare Diseases has been shaped. It is not new in the content, it's rather new in the format, because the messages in this pledge are those we are familiar with. What you can do and how can you already support is the more practical aspect of this campaign, and we would like to focus on this one, and of course on Q&A at the end. I want to leave the floor to Simone for this first part, because it will nicely introduce you on the reasons why we are doing this.
Thank you, Valentina, and hello, everyone. I hope everyone hears me all right. It's nice to being able to introduce you, but Valentina would have done an equally, if not even nicer job to this, to compare to me. Why it is important to engage with Europe? I think in many occasions, particularly in National Alliances meeting, we have had the opportunity to discuss why working at European level makes sense for association working with people with rare diseases, particularly because it is a successful example of cooperation at European level in the spirit of solidarity. Particularly, it is clearly in the treaties of founding the European Union that protecting the health of European citizens is of primary importance. Secondly, there have been a lot of concrete action being done, certainly from a policy perspective, but also from an infrastructure perspective, with particularly the European Reference Network mentioned here, but we cannot forget the 2 joint actions, the expert committee, and so on and so forth. But however, the road is not completed yet, and in the legislative term that is in front of us, we have a unique opportunity to make a difference for people with rare diseases. And it is not only for us to do, but it's also a key message for prospective and candidate members of the European Parliament, if they need to talk about what Europe can do concretely for their own constituents. Rare diseases, we believe, it is a concrete example of the added value of European cooperation. Can you move on, Valentina, please? Why is it primarily important also to engage in this particular round of European election? There are many reasons, and there are not only the rise of more nationalist and anti-European sentiment, which are exampled here by Mr. Matteo Salvini and Madame Le Pen, who are clearly 2 prominent exponents of this drive, but there are similar movements in most, if not every country in Europe, and these are certainly on the rise, and that could really make work at European level really problematic. Secondly, it's also for a specific and more tangible reason. Many of the parliamentarians that have been supportive of action on rare diseases in the past, such as Madame Françoise Grostet, but also others that have been helpful in legislation around social impact in the recent legislative term. I mentioned Elena Gentile or Brando Benifei, but even Christel Schaldemose or others. Might not return, and this is the particular case of Françoise Grostet, or might not be elected, also due to the rise of anti-European movement that are basing their electoral vote in linked in national situations that are dealing primarily with issues in immigration, in lack of jobs, and so on and so forth. Particularly lacking reliable supporters in the European Parliament in the next legislative term might be a challenge for some important decision related to fundings. And for instance, in the development of the next budgetary framework, but also in the annual call for the different programs that provide funding for research, for public health activity, and so on and so forth. And certainly to provide a support for the deployment of European Reference Network. And as an example of the key role the European parliamentarians play, Rare 2030, which is the project on the Foresight project that is currently started and going on since the 1st of January to prepare policy action for on rare diseases up to 2030, was initially financed and proposed by a group of MEPs and brought forward by particularly Madame Frédérique Ries, but also I believe Christian Buzois and Madame Grostet herself. And over the course of 2 years, approximately 2 million euros were dedicated to this project, which otherwise would have happened. So that shows the importance of engaging well with European parliamentarians. Next slide, please. How we are seeing this this campaign playing out. It is not going to end with the European election, first and foremost. This is the campaign, the phase of the campaign where we put to the attention of prospective candidate MEPs the key 3 points which Valentina, 3 key messages that Valentina will present a little bit later on. To their attention, but that on the basis of those messages, we will need to do quite a lot of follow-up work past June and July, when MEPs will take their seats, but also the European Commission, a new European Commission will be put in place and starting to work as early as December 2019, most likely January 2020. This means that the work doesn't end with the European election, but it changes and it evolves in that. On top of that, we also have the still, and I don't know if Nick and the colleagues from Genetic Alliances are online and with us, but still it is uncertain whether the UK will or will not participate in the European election. So please be tuned, because it seems that they still are figuring out what they want to do when they grow up. So this is in a way, at this very moment in time, we have already defined the messages which will be presented today and the pledge in itself. Please, Valentina. And the specific campaign objectives is really to raise awareness about the issues related to rare diseases and people living with rare diseases with election candidates, rallying support before the election, and actually using this moment in time to do also link to national activity. And my Italian colleagues might allow me to do that. There is a prospective law proposal on rare diseases and orphan medicinal product going through the through the Italian Chamber of Deputies. I see personally as the European election as a moment to bring to the table and to the attention of relevant parliamentarians the issues that are linked both at national level and at European level, because the political forces will be the same, and thus the European election provide a timely opportunity and hook to discuss national opportunities. And thus, as I explained a little bit before, this is a moment to prepare post-election activities, as we will have most likely a very charged legislative agenda, particularly if I take the example of the pharmaceutical legislation. We are pretty much sure that an evaluation of the orphan medicinal product regulation and the pediatric regulation will be discussed, and the European Parliament as a co-legislator will play an important role. If we do not have educated and aware and MEPs that are aware of the specific situation for people with rare diseases, we risk that if this legislation goes through, that is adopted in not the appropriate way. And this is, with this, I leave it to Valentina to continue with the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Simone. Yes, I told you you would do a nice job. I think we have a very good introduction. I would like to see if there are questions. I'm not sure I'm able to see if there are written questions, but I'm asking Doward maybe to flag it to me. Otherwise, as I said, at the end we will gather all the questions and hopefully answers. Yes, so what are we going to do then in this contest, in view of the elections, with the opportunities and challenges that Simone just presented? The preparation from our side, as you recall from the previous meeting of the National Alliances, was to prepare a document gathering some of our key asks, meaning what kind of requests we want to do in view of the next term, meaning what can we ask to the future MEPs, therefore targeting existing candidates, to what can we ask them to do in view of the next electoral term, which is, or parliamentary term, if I may, which is another 5 years. This is where we came up with the ideas of the pledge, so Pledge for Rare Diseases, and that's the document that God brings together some of the messages that what we think are, including a large number of our key asks that could be, we hope somehow implemented or pushed forward by the future parliamentarians. So what you have seen, like in December, was some ideas of the key messages, and these messages will come from previous work, like position paper of EURORDIS, from the work of prioritization of policy areas that was done with the National Alliances, and presented at the European Conference for Rare Diseases in May this year in Vienna. So using all the background work, but repackaging it. So what I want to show you now, I'm trying to share the screen and show you the document that we have already shared with you. This is, it should be, yeah, okay. Like, hello, yeah, Vali, could you speak up a bit? Okay, I can see a message that I need to speak louder. Okay. I'm just asking you if you can see the pledge. Are you still seeing the slide? No, you can still. You still, yeah, you should be able to see. Are you able? I'm asking Simone. Can you nod if you can see the pledge? Okay, thank you. So I want to show you the documents I'm talking about. So the pledge has been formatted in this way. We have the 3 key messages in the first page, Then we move to a second page, which is really for those who are not so familiar with rare diseases, or even for those who are, but just to restate some of the key ideas. What is a rare disease? What is at stake when we talk about rare diseases? What are the challenges? How Europe has addressed them? And what, again, we will see what needs to do. So this is where we stand now, if you want. We want to put the emphasis on the fact that rare is actually common. And that's why we refer to the fact that then, although each disease is rare, actually the overall population is big. I think this is a very important concept to explain, even if the candidates might be kind of familiar with the rare diseases. The fact that the population of Belgium and Netherlands combined represents the whole number of people with rare disease in Europe, we think it's a quite powerful concept to explain. What we have to keep in mind is the candidates for the European Parliament, in this case, they have in mind who are the potential voters, and realizing that actually the people living with rare diseases, and with them a broader group, their families and carers all together, can actually represent a good number of people, hence of voters. Therefore, they might be probably more careful and pay more attention to what we are saying if you remind them that actually we are a broad group. We also have to emphasize the fact that Europe is actually, and then Simone has explained it very well, is actually can make a difference for people with rare diseases. And at the same time, rare diseases, if you want to see the other way around, is an area where Europe can make a difference. And for those Eurosceptics, these rare diseases are indeed an area where Europe has made a difference. And then we have picked a few, examples with figures, if possible, how much has been spent in research, national plans, how many, there have been national plans, although some need to be renewed and relaunched, the European reference networks, the number of authorized medicines for rare diseases, and so on. These are figures we're all familiar. This could be a useful background page. And this is the third, probably more dense page for those who want to go into the details. What you are pledging for, 3 key messages, and we'll go through them, but here more the details of each of them. If you're asking for better care and diagnosis, then what do we need to do in particular? This is probably for those who are more versed or more interested to know what specific measures are needed. But we have to be careful to keep the level of the discussion, at the level of our audience. We might have to stick to the 3 key message only for a broader group, or for those who are completely new, and then therefore to refer to the first 3 messages as they are. And when some candidates, for instance, during a meeting want to know more, then we can go more into the details of what actually is implied by each of these 3 requests. In practice, we are asking people to sign by downloading the sign, something which has been created and made available on EURORDIS web page. And by holding the sign up and making a photo and sharing on their social media, they basically are endorsing this pledge. So we will invite you to share these photos and these pledging supporters, and then pass it on to us so we can gather this information. But then if we go back to the slides, you should be able to see the slide again. Yep, I see there's also a question. Yes, I've noticed Vicky is pointing out that there is an inconsistency. You're right, in the figures of 5%. I will come back to that. Thank you. Okay, back to the slide. Yes, this is the first page. first level of messages. Here we are. What we want to emphasize here are three things. One, no, first of all, like in a framework of how many people we are talking about in Europe, and with the overall objective on leaving no one behind and achieving their potential, the full potential of health and well-being. We are inviting the MEPs to support a new political framework centered on these three key pillars, if you want: enabling people with rare disease to receive diagnosis and care within 1 year of coming to medical attention. Now, for those of you who might have come across this idea of the 1 year of coming to medical attention, this comes from the vision of the EURORDIS, the International Research Consortium for Rare Diseases, that has set this ambitious target at the international level. Certainly very ambitious, but I think we have to explain and make clear that we have work to do. The situation is still not satisfactory for people with a rare disease in terms of diagnosis and care, and we want to see concrete action. 1 year of coming to medical attention is a specific target, but with something to aim to, and we can come back to that at the end of the parliamentary mandate and see where we are in checking against this indicator, if you want. Supporting holistic care and social systems that are inclusive of people living with rare diseases throughout their lives. This has to do with the fact that people with rare disease need care from A to Z throughout their life, not only in childhood, but also through adult life. They also need social care and not only health care, and these two have to be linked. So you are familiar certainly with the bridging health and social care theme of the Rare Disease Day. This also refers to the fact that healthcare pathway have to start from really the first level of primary care all the way, if needed, to the European reference networks, if expertise has to be found beyond the national border. Last but not least, support all the opportunities to improve scientific research and innovation for results that at the end of the day improve lives of people with rare diseases, their carers, and they empower people. After all, that is what we care about. So we are not only looking here at therapies in the more common term, probably the most common idea we have when we talk about this, but also digital and technologies that are opening up another broad range of opportunities for people with rare diseases. And last but definitely not least, the idea that at the bottom is the one of engaging with people with rare diseases at all time points, or where they see, or at all fora where decisions are taken that affect their lives. It's about engaging patients. This was a message that, of course, came in different occasions through the membership and this part of project we are implementing and we are doing every day, or we are striving to do. It doesn't belong to one of the specific areas, so it's a horizontal idea and request that has to be implemented across all the fields. That's why we have it here out in greater evidence. Now, I don't want to take too much time because I've talked about a bit the messages 1 to 3. As I said, this is the level of greater details for those who want to know more, but you might have to stick to the first level if you're talking to certain audiences, depending on the candidates. This one has to do with diagnosis, care, universal health access to care, to link to the work we are doing also with rare disease international level. Visibility and recognition of rare diseases as the first step to improve eventually diagnosis and care. And of course, cross-border sharing of expertise and data that relates, of course, to European reference networks, but not only. And then here again, to improve care, one key messages about access to therapies that has to be reached through collaboration, also cross-border. again, this one I mentioned to you. Under this section, we also emphasize the need to have comprehensive national strategies for rare diseases. We come back to this idea that was launched 10 years ago, and we know that was led to fruits, to 25 national plans altogether, but some of them need to be still implemented and haven't been so successful or not funded, and some of them simply came to an end. So we really have to go back to those and to renew them in a possibly meaningful way. And healthcare pathways is something has to be, after all, supported at a national level. But from the MEPs, we have seen what kind of push can be granted. That was the cases, for instance, of this funding and support for year-end's European Reference Network, on which the MEPs last year were instrumental in adopting an amendment in favor of greater funding for European reference networks in the future funding phase of the EU. And again, the idea of bridging gap between social and healthcare, seizing opportunities in science and innovation, and as I said, it has to do with everything which is important to do in the field of research, working together, again, collaboration in the field of research, which means pooling resources. Funding, again, this is the idea of funding for research, but also infrastructures and platforms, something that has to be supported by European public funding, but certainly national as well. But here, of course, we are thinking on the future support to Horizon Europe, which is the new research program, which will start in 2021. Of course, support to patient register and data collections, which still has to be implemented widely at the European level, to do research that focuses on unmet needs when it comes to the therapy developments, and of course, support of technologies that empower people and improve their quality of life, as I was saying before. Now, few things. We are already at midday, so halfway through our seminar. I want to focus now only on what are the next actions. I'm taking the questions at the end, that's promised. And there are practical things moving forward that we want to suggest. We mentioned this in the past, but this is really the time to do it. First of all, gathering intelligence on the candidates. We can do something from our side. We receive information, what national groups, how parties are getting organized, what are the candidates, but this is still very much work in progress. Only a few countries have finished their work, like I think only Malta has appointed all the candidates for the two main political groups. This might last until April, so there will be very much ongoing work. We are gathering in a sort of database, which is basically a broad Excel sheet. Who are the candidates about whom we know they are running again? And we are collecting them, and we will share them with you. I will show you in a second. But it's important that you provide us with information. We collect this information and try to find out who they are, what they can do for people with rare diseases, meaning sometimes if they have a medical background can be useful, if they are have their own personal experience as family carers or patients themselves with rare diseases, or they have, you know, influence at the national level on health policy, anything that can be relevant, as well as their names. Of course, the work we are asking you now at this stage, we have presented the pledge, but it would be much more effective if the candidates are approached with a document in their own language. So we invite you to translate the pledge, at least the 3 key main messages. What we can do is then to format it in the layout that you have seen, to keep it in the same layout with the same color and formatting of the page. What we are also inviting to you is to collect support from the candidates and advertise it through social media using the hashtag Pledge4Rare diseases, and EU election 2019 is going to be useful as well. Of course, will be used across board. sorry, not only for rare diseases, but it would be useful to use the two hashtags jointly when advertising on social media. Then, of course, the main thing is to contact the candidates and directly invite them to sign the pledge. Of course, we leave it, of course, open to you, to your creative means, organize meetings, events, or anything we think can be useful for you. Some of the contacts will be already there. You have already national contacts, and you want just to share with them what is the pledge. For others, you might have to be more active to engage with those who you haven't been in contact so far. What we are asking you, this is just a photo of the office in Brussels, not all of us, but with the rare disease colors, is just to say that please share with us what you're doing. I'm putting down the Kasia, our new colleague since December, and she's doing a great job to gather all the names of the future MEPs. You can write to her directly. Kasia, by the way, is the one that probably the tallest in the group in the photo, the one between Clara and Ines. What we would like to do, of course, is to create a link to the European level and maximize the visibility of candidates. When we have people who have signed and show the supports with a photo, for instance, on social media, we create a sort of wall on the website of supporters that they can be looked at, so that to have them all together. What we can do, of course, okay, layout of the pledge, development of the pledge, adapting the translation. We can also draft in the next few days a cover letter to reach out to the candidates, thank you letter for those who actually support. Anything which can be done in a template matter, as we have done for other occasions, you know, in many past projects, we've done similar things. So we're happy to do it, and then we leave it to you to translate if this can help and support your work, of course, on social media by retweeting, posting the pledge support, as I just said. The depository of candidates will be posted in a Dropbox and made accessible to you all. What we are asking, we will manage it, so we are asking to send information to us, the names of the candidates, so we can centralize all this information. So about the timing, this is nothing new. Okay, the pledge, we have it. The cover letter soon. The translation, ideally, by the end of March, might be very short for some of you, but the sooner the better. I just want to mention that for those who are in Brussels next week, that we are going to meet some of the existing MEPs. Not all of them, of course, are returning. But for them, we will do a sort of a cocktail event to say thank you for those who were engaged in the past years, but also to present the pledge and engage them for the years to come. And again, what will be ongoing, keeping tracks of the pledge signed, giving public thanks or privately, and of course, feeding the list of candidates who are running as we learn about this. Voila. So I'm just finishing. I'm just wondering if there is a way. So I don't see written question for now. Yeah,
Valentina.
Yeah.
In the chat, Lene, I want to raise one point that Lene made in particular. That they're very happy with the pledge, but they would like to give it a national framework in the new political framework to point out the things that need to be done at national level in Denmark. I think this is exactly the point. You can definitely tailor it to your national situation. What we believe we can provide you is with an opportunity represented by a European election to exactly do that, raise the issues that can be done at European level, but also contextualize and use that opportunity to raise the things that need to be done at national level, given that still there is a lot to be done on the national level, such as the National Rare Disease Action Plan, but also the integration of European reference networks in the national healthcare context, their reimbursement, pricing and reimbursement of a medicinal product, which I believe in Denmark is going through some interesting developments and creating one, as a matter of fact, and collaboration with the other Nordic countries. So yes, definitely it's an opportunity that everyone can do. We will be happy, myself, Valentina, Clara, and all the others, Carolina, Kaja, to give input and support on any ideas that you might have, and perhaps if it is a returning candidate MEP, it will probably be easier, and we can also tell you what type of experience that we have had, if we have had any intervention or relationship with this particular MEP. Vlasta, one doctor who would like to be elected, and definitely if you want to share with us his name, we can see also and provide you. And I understand that Tamara as well has been having first flavors of meetings with MEPs. Elena, what if we recommend to integrate the national flavor in the pledge or alongside the pledge? I think it needs to be complementary. So I think the 3 key messages that you have at the beginning are quite broad, and they can be tailored to your own. I would only recommend to maintain the same sort of style so that it is recognizable, and integrated with it. Then other decisions are for you to decide according to how you know best your system would work. And I know you, Lena, have experience already. So if you have a comment or other input to give us, we will welcome it very much. And for the moment, this is it. Yes, the only thing, Valentina, you wanted to comment is on the 5% of the EU population and 6 to 8% in the graphic.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you, Vicky, for pointing out. This has to be corrected in the first place. It's just not consistent, but it has to do with an ongoing issue we have with the figures. There is, so nothing is official at the moment, but there has been a study carried out with Orphanet, led by Orphanet, on the epidemiology, so the actual figures of how many people with rare diseases exist. Nothing like that has ever been done, so it was finally done, and the figures have been somehow, they're not so far from what we have estimated and what has been used even in European official documents, like the European Council recommendation on the rare diseases, for example, or the communication of 10 years ago. All these were estimates. Now we're going towards real figures, I mean, closer to the reality, which is extremely difficult. So that led to a range which is closer to what you see here in the pledge, why we are using between 25 and 30 million people, and 5%, an estimated 5% of the population. While in the past we had more like 30 million and 6 and 8% of the population. So we actually updated the figure of the millions, in terms of millions, but the percentage of 6 and 8 we haven't, and there is still something which has lived through and should be adapted. I must say that the official communication still is for EURORDIS to be consistent across the board, to use 30 million and 6 and 8% of the population. But we are aware of these new figures, so we wanted to introduce the new figures for this pledge for, as it will probably stand, is a document we will use even after the elections. We want to prepare for the new figures. But again, that has to be done consistently through the pledge. So thank you for pointing out. So we'll we will have to adapt the page to where there was this mismatch. Voila. Is that clear? If you want, I can add more, but it's just we are in this transition phase between the previous figures and how they were communicated and the new figures, even though this is not official yet. So we are in this waiting phase for the official publication, but we already know what are the figures. Voila. So any other questions or comments on what, even on your own experience? I think the one on, I think is extremely important, to the one on the adapting to the national flavor, and Simona has replied extensively. So I insist this is, yes, it's the case. When will they be official? Bianca is asking. That's unfortunately something we don't know. We will certainly communicate as soon as available. It has to do with the publication time. So the article has to go through a publication on official journal. The submission has been made, so we're waiting for replies. And this will depend on the reviewers and of the official journal. So sorry, we can't really give you, I was hoping by now to give you a reply, but this is not yet official. Yeah, so it will be, I would guess, after summer, if there's anything. But it's just a guess. It depends really on the how long it might take for the article to be accepted and so on. So, any other questions from any one of you? Maybe comments, or just you can share what you were planning to do if you have already ideas. If there's any target, as Vlasta was saying, people who you know could be a good candidate to approach, or initiatives that you think can be useful and you want to share with us. Is there anything like that, or is that new questions you see? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Vicky. She's thanks. On the side questions, I don't know if there's anybody typing. I don't know if you have questions about the UK, but you talked about that. It looks like the UK might be also voting, but I don't see anybody in the list from the Genetic Alliance from the UK, but anyway, it might well be that the UK, if the delay to exit the EU is granted, they will have to vote at the end of May, because if they're still officially members, they will have to elect their MEPs. Which might be the case. That will reshuffle a bit, I think, the idea. I'm just talking while I wait for more questions, but at the moment from 751 members, it will go down to 705 without the UK, but there will be a reallocation to certain countries. Depending on the current number, some countries will have more MEPs, but I suspect this one will be put on hold if the UK is actually voting as well. Yeah, other things can be useful, that the national system, the voting system are different across Europe because they depend on national law, even though there are some rules at European level to ensure certain proportionalities, but every country will vote in their own way. Anyway, I think maybe this could be can be exhaustive. Yes, that's how Annette is there, and then she's pointing something very important about the fact that the message, a key message, one way to approach the candidates is to insist on how Europe can do a lot for rare diseases, and the MEPs can do that as well. So it is important to make them feel responsible, to give them a role and a specific responsibility. And it is also, yes, one of the ideas of the pledge, and to make them feel committed to the cause, and let them believe that actually Europe can make the difference for the people, as it did for the people living with the rare diseases, knowing that they did implement measures that they contributed to change their life. But don't let them think that everything is done. Exactly this, we have also insisted on the fact there's unfinished business, and that's why they have to get engaged. Anyway, any further question from the audience? Plus is saying thank you and see you soon in Paris. Simone, is there anything you want to add?
Not really, but as Valentina has highlighted, as we progress and we understand better who is coming, who is not coming, when the lists are going to be presented and so on, we could follow up and share with you in the results that we have, so that you can check if this is okay with you, or if you know other people. But it is important that we maintain a sufficient level of exchange of views and coordination as much as you can, of course, and yes, we'll be absolutely fine. Here we go. That's where we already have a few ideas and a few insights. For instance, Vlasta Biliana Borzana is running again. For instance, herself, she's a medical, I think she's a doctor, certainly married to one, and she's the point of contact of the European Parliament for all the relations with the European Medicine Agency, which is very important for appointments, in the sense of appointments of people on committees, but also for the budget of the European Medicine Agencies that has every year to be cleared by the European Parliament. So that's an example of how MEPs exercise some sort of scrutiny and influence on activities that are of relevance to us. Miss Konechna is also in the Czech Republic going to run again, as well as Senalova, possibly. Yeah.
They're not. These are not completed. As we said, we keep on adding, saying if it's a new or a candidate on an old MEP rerunning. But for instance, I know we have Denmark shown, but I don't think it certainly is not completed. It is as our okay. Just talking about Denmark. Len is writing that Rare Disease Denmark has their biannual member meeting tomorrow. We have, oh, that's great, Crystal Skaldemoser and Terkel as guests of honors for the debate on European affairs. That's fantastic. You might want to remind her that she can join the cocktail on Wednesday next week. She's been very, very nice and very supportive, and it's good that you have her with you. Yes, the cocktails, exactly. I think cocktail usually is a good argument to use with MEPs. Voila, so this will be shared, this list will be shared, and we hope to receive some more information from you, because some information is only available at national level. In other cases, we can retrieve it here in Brussels, but sometimes it's not in the right language, or it's not always easy. Voila. I think I close it here. If there are no further questions, let me see. Is there any question that I can't see? I'm asking Simone and Davor. No, I think we are good. So thank you very much for your time. I hope this is going to be useful, and I hope this is just the beginning of more intense contacts in the next few days, in the next couple of months. And we will see certainly in many of you, I hope, in Bucharest, when we'll be only 1 week before the election. So most of the work will be done, and we will see then where we stand. Thank you, and have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.